I never thought that I would be putting up this video on my channel, but my country just went to war. Like literal actual war where bombs are dropped on civilians and you hear missiles dropping on you in the middle of the night. That kind of war. Pakistan and India went to war. It was a war that Pakistan was forced, or you can say dragged into, because Pakistanis did not want this war. I wasn't going to put up this video today. I had another video scheduled. If you have been following me for a while, you know I do food reviews and commentaries on food, and I discuss different cuisines, etc., etc. And I had a video planned for this Sunday. I just could not bring myself to upload a video about a restaurant review or a food vlog this weekend, because it's literally the 11th of May and the ceasefire was announced just yesterday afternoon. It's not even been a full 24 hours, I believe. And I'm well aware of the fact that as I speak, there are currently funerals happening. The civilians, the armed forces, our pilots, our officers, who were martyred in this war. I'm well aware of the fact that currently funerals are happening. I haven't slept in almost 6 days. I've just had very, disturbed sleep, because who can sleep when your country is under attack? If you are unaware of what started this war, if you aren't familiar with, what's been happening in this part of the world, there was a terrorist incident in India, I think a couple of weeks back, where some civilians were killed. It was really unfortunate, because obviously it's always unfortunate when innocent people lose their lives at the hands of terrorism. As a Pakistani, trust me, nobody has suffered more as a result of terrorism than the Pakistani people themselves. So we knew exactly what Indian people felt in that moment. But unfortunately, instead of questioning their own government, instead of questioning their own security forces, instead of providing any evidence whatsoever, they just straight up decided that Pakistan was responsible for that terrorist attack in their country, in a region that is heavily militarized. That's one of the most militarized regions in the world. And despite so many, security forces being present there, the attack still happened. And it was really unfortunate that the Indian people, I can understand, the government and the armies, they have their own agendas maybe, but the average Indian citizen, the average Indian actually believed their government and their army when they said, oh, Pakistan is responsible for this. And not just their people, their media, most of their channels, they also jumped on the let's blame Pakistan brigade. All over the country, there was this widespread sentiment that we need to get revenge from Pakistan. They had no proof, but they went ahead and they attacked Pakistan. They dropped missiles. They've sent drones. It was all out war. And I am still, I genuinely, and I'm speechless, because not in my wildest imaginations did I ever think that I would be sitting here on YouTube and talking about India, Pakistan being at war instead of doing a food review video. We never wanted this war. We never wanted to go to war with India without seeing any proof, without seeing any evidence. They just went ahead and attacked Pakistan. They straight up launched attacks on the civilians of Pakistan as the result. Unfortunately, we were pushed to the extent, that we ultimately had to retaliate to their repeated attempts of attacking us. It was really unfortunate that, despite our efforts to de-escalate the situations, despite our efforts to, reach out to India at the government level, and try to get both parties to sit at the table and, resolve whatever grievances they had, India just decided to go for the war option directly. Unfortunately, we've lost lives as a result. There have been casualties, there have been damages. Even more upsetting than, them attacking us, their state and their army attacking us, was the response that I saw from a lot of Indians who were cheering for war, who were celebrating the death of innocent civilians in Pakistan. They were celebrating it. They were putting up Instagram stories. There were so many Bollywood celebrities, people I know, my friends from India who I became friends with in England when I used to live there. Whenever there is any unrest that happens in Pakistan in which innocent civilians, they die, we are the first people to start questioning our security forces. Instead of going around blaming, neighbors, we question, our own house, what went wrong, how did this happen, that's our mindset. On the other hand, what I saw in majority of Indians was just straight up, belief that yes, Pakistanis have done this and they deserve to die, without questioning their government, without questioning their armed forces, and they were celebrating it. Nobody in Pakistan, celebrated when there was a terrorist incident recently in India, the Pahalgam incident. Not a single person celebrated that, because who celebrates, or cheers for innocent people dying? Indians, apparently. Their reaction was, let's just go out, attack Pakistan, and flatten it. People were actually calling for Pakistan to be flattened. And I don't think a lot of Indians realize that Pakistan is also a nuclear state, just like India. Pakistan did end up retaliating, which, to be very honest, we had every right to do, because you cannot attack someone without proof and then expect them not to retaliate. And Pakistan took a significant amount of time before they retaliated, because we genuinely wanted to de escalate the situation. And I was in Lahore when the war officially broke out, when India sent missiles and attacked people in the middle of the night in Bahawalpur, in Muridke, in Azad Kashmir. Innocent people were killed. Despite that, Pakistan did not immediately retaliate. India then proceeded to send drones to Pakistan as well. Not only did they kill people, they challenged the sovereignty of our state. In spite of all of this, Pakistan waited at least 4 days before retaliating. In these 4 days, we've had missile attacks landing in civilian areas. We've had drone attacks. We've had missiles being launched on us. And I have heard missiles being intercepted by the Pakistani Defense Forces. And it's really sad to see that the average Indian in sitting in India thinks of all of us as terrorists. And it's really unfortunate that this whole narrative of Pakistanis being terrorists, or this being a terrorist country, where everybody is just randomly going around, shooting people or blowing up people, innocent people. This narrative has become so normalized, that a lot of Indians I saw, when I was telling them, when I was correcting them, that, do you even know who you were cheering for? When India attacked Pakistan, they were all cheering, they were all celebrating, and I had to tell them, innocent children have died. I was sharing those photos and uh, videos of the kids' funerals, and their response was, oh, but what were they doing, in terrorist territory? That has been their response, because they think everywhere in Pakistan, the whole of Pakistan is terrorist territory. And they didn't even bother to, think themselves that maybe they might have been brainwashed. Maybe it's a narrative that they've been fed. They just went ahead and accepted it. Their government, their media, their armed forces told them that they had attacked terrorists in Pakistan, and they just started celebrating. They were cheering, they were putting up stories, Jai Hind, whatnot. And I was speechless. And some of my woke, liberal Indian friends who I met when I used to study, when I used to live in England, they're doing this, they're saying this. So I can only imagine, those Indians who've never known a Pakistani, just how much they hate Pakistanis, how much they're convinced that all of us are terrorists. Whether you are living abroad as a Pakistani, whether you're working there, whether you're a student there, whether you're traveling, just for leisure, anywhere this, conversation is happening about Pakistanis being terrorists, or, oh, you guys have a terrorism problem, right? I've faced that so many times whenever I've traveled abroad, wherever I have, lived abroad. I've often gotten that, unfortunately, not just from Indians, but from white people, from Europeans, from, English people, from American people. When I tell them I'm from Pakistan, eventually they'll bring up, oh, you guys have a terrorism problem, right? Who says that? What kind of icebreaker or conversation starter is that? I'm really sorry, but any Pakistani who doesn't automatically shut the other person up isn't doing enough. I'm taking full responsibility that I have been that Pakistani who hasn't given people a shut up call when they have brought this up. Do we go around, when we travel, when we interact with non-Pakistanis, do we bring up stereotypes about that country as a form of a conversation starter? Like, do you ever, when an American introduces you to themselves and says, oh, I'm from America, do you ever say, oh, you're from that country that shoots children in schools, right? Like, you guys go around shooting children in schools. Do you do that? Of course not. Have you ever met an Indian and, started the conversation with, oh, you guys have a rape problem, right? Like, you women in India get raped all the time. Have you done that? Of course not. Because we don't do that to others. If anybody's doing that to you and you do not automatically shut them up, or walk away from the conversation altogether, or just disengage, whether that conversation happened online or whether it was in person. If it happened in person, you just walk away. If it happened online, just block the person. There is absolutely no need to engage with such people. We need to start drawing boundaries when it comes to this narrative. We need to start telling people that it is absolutely not okay to have this conversation with us. It's only once we start putting down these boundaries that people will actually start shutting up, and they will actually be afraid to say it to your face. Because when every single Pakistani gives them this response, they will stop bringing up this conversation. And hopefully, this narrative, it may not die down, but people will realize that this is something that you cannot say to a person or you cannot say out loud. They might still think that, they might still believe that, and honestly, we cannot control what other people believe. That's totally up to them. But we can at least make it very uncomfortable for them to bring up this conversation next time. Lastly, there is absolutely no need to seek approval, win the approval, or try to convince people that you are not terrorists. You absolutely do need to shut them up when they bring it up, but you don't need to go around proactively, trying to convince people, the rest of the world that, oh my God, I'm such a nice person. Look at me, I'm from such a nice country. Oh, look at us, we're so nice. There's absolutely no need to do that. People who hate you have already made up their mind about you. There's absolutely no point convincing them. What you need to do is just walk away. Does that mean we should absolutely never talk about Pakistan or the good things that Pakistan has to offer? Absolutely not. You should talk about Pakistan because you feel like talking about Pakistan, and not because, the underlying motive of that conversation is to try to convince somebody that, Pakistanis are humans and they're just like normal everyday people, or that, we're not all terrorists. The second you start feeling that way when you are talking about your country to somebody who's not from Pakistan, the second you start feeling like that, the second you feel the need to convince them that, my country is not full of terrorists, stop having that conversation. I talk about Pakistan. My channel is totally about Pakistan and Pakistani food and other cuisines that are available in Pakistan, and just the amazing and the vibrant food culture that we have in Pakistan. I talk about it, but it is not with the intent of trying to convince somebody to see me as human or to see Pakistanis as not terrorists. The intent and the purpose of me talking about Pakistan, and the reason I talk in English primarily on this channel, is not to convince people that, look, we're not terrorists. It's for people who are genuinely interested in traveling to Pakistan. It's for people who are genuinely interested in food or cuisines from around the world, or just generally food in general. It's for people like those. not for people who are skeptical about Pakistanis maybe being terrorists. And therefore, I'm here sitting and talking about, oh, look at this amazing biryani we have. We're not terrorists. We make really good biryani. That's not the purpose of this channel. I have a lot of really nice classmates from my time in university in England who watch my channel, who watch my videos, and they've always been super interested in, Pakistani food because they've heard so much about it. And some of them are really interested in Pakistan in general, planning to travel here. So that's primarily, my audience, anybody who's interested in Pakistan, Pakistani food culture, or just generally food in general, because I do talk about other cuisines as well, not just Pakistani food or Pakistani restaurants. I talk about food from other parts of the world as well. So, yes, you should absolutely talk about your country. You should absolutely talk about your country with love. You should absolutely brag about the good things that Pakistan has to offer, like the tourism, our culture, our food, all of those things. Be mindful of what your motivation is in that conversation. Is it because you're trying to convince somebody to see you as human and not a terrorist? Or is it because you're genuinely passionate about what you're sharing? Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I know it's very different from my usual videos on my channel, but given the circumstances, there was no way that a food review or a restaurant review was going up on my channel today. I would once again like to thank our armed forces, all our soldiers, all our pilots, for defending us from India's repeated attacks, and for eventually bringing India to a position that a ceasefire was achieved. I'm really glad that finally we have peace. And it's not just me. Fireworks have been going off since yesterday. People are celebrating. They're having mithai. They've been out on the roads. I saw people with flags, giant flags, just out on the street, celebrating, cheering, hooting. Thank you, God, that sanity has prevailed. And hopefully, a situation like this does not come up again. If you are not from Pakistan, I hope this video gave you some clarity about what has been happening. And if you are from Pakistan, thank you so much for the bravery you have shown in the past couple of days. It's amazing how our country has united. It's amazing how so many Pakistanis put aside their personal differences and came together as one. Thank you to all of us, and thank you to our armed forces specifically. Thank you to the memers, the meme community who has been super active this past week. Even in the middle of war, we were making memes and fan cams and TikToks. It really helped to soothe the nerves, to calm the nerves that a lot of people had been enduring for the past almost week. So, once again, thank you so much to everyone who has contributed, who has done their part, not just in times of war, but I hope we can always stay united the way we have, united the past week. Despite our different ethnicities, despite our different cultures, despite our different cuisines, despite our political views, despite our different religions, despite our different sects, when we Pakistanis come together, it is a beautiful sight to witness. And we witnessed that this past week. Thank you once again, and Pakistan Zindabad.